And now, as we jump into the Ron Johnson show, I'm going to bring in Sam Ekstrom. Sam, how's it going today?
Yesterday talking about Bet Online, I think I touted the Wolves -8.5 last night, and
Yep.
that went badly right at the end. It was looking good, and then Anthony Edwards started gunning threes, shooting for 50.
Yeah, that's the bad beats that people hate. You look at, I saw the Kentucky game. I don't know if that was this year or years ago, but, I think they were plus 11 and they were up 10. Guy steals the ball in the wide open court, 10 seconds left. Instead of dunking the ball, he just stops. And then his team is yelling because he's a backup, go dunk the ball. He dunks it. They go up 12. Everybody who picked Kentucky would have won plus the 11 points. But, the kid did not understand it, which tells me that he's not gambling for his own team. So that's good because we know what happened with Calvin Ridley. But as we jump into this show, the Timberwolves are set at the number 7 seed. And the question was posed, is it fair? Is this fair? And when I think about fair, I have to think about what's fair. Like, is life fair? No. Is the world fair? No. Is the world going to give us exactly what we want when we want it? No. So the Timberwolves are faced with a team in the Clippers. I personally think it's not fair. Even though the world's not fair, I think this is not fair. You've earned the right to be the 7th seed. They should be the 8th seed. If you want some kind of play, I don't even think the play in, like if you're 9-10, no, you're done. Go fishing, go to Cancun, be done. But you look at the Timberwolves versus the Clippers, and this is why it gets scary now in a playoff scenario like this with the bracket. The Timberwolves are 2-3 versus the Clippers. The Timberwolves have been outscored 551 to 563 this season. So it's been close, but each game has not been close. The scores have been close because each team has blown each other out by 15 to 20 points. You look at the Clippers win November 5th. They overcame a 10-point deficit in the first half. That's the only time in this series that the team losing in the first half came back and won. Every other time, whoever finished the first half off in the lead, they won. So it was 2-2 up until that point when the Clippers finally found a way to come back on the Timberwolves. You look at Paul George, his 24 points a season. He's only played 30 games, though. You look at Reggie Jackson, his 17 points, which leads the team because he's played 74 games this season. But here's the scary thing. Kawhi Leonard is possibly coming back for the playoffs. And so the question is he going to play in this play-in? Is he ready to go? Or is he going to wait and see what seed they get? Like, is he just going to let them play it out and try to get the 7th seed and then come back to play the Grizzlies? I mean, if I'm the Grizzlies, I'm mad at that. Like, why all of a sudden do I have to face Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, two of the best defenders in the league? I think for the Timberwolves, that's, again, you put Kawhi Leonard and Paul George in there, now you're facing two of the best defenders in the league. So that's when the Timberwolves are going to need the entire big three because Paul George is probably going to, between the two, one of them is going to try to eliminate Anthony Edwards. The other one is going to take another person, but they're also going to play that switch off on D'Lo. And then Karl-Anthony Towns. So Karl-Anthony Towns has to be able to go out and give you 30 to 40. I had Trent Tucker on a radio show, and Trent Tucker mentioned, playing with Michael Jordan or playing against Michael Jordan when he was with the Knicks, and he had Patrick Ewing, and he said they used to tell Patrick, like, if Jordan's going to go out and get 30 to 40, you have to go out and get 30 to 40 so you can neutralize that big score on the other team and then let the bench be able to help you. But if you're big, if you're number one, which is Karl-Anthony Towns, only gets 20, and then Paul George goes out and gets 30 to 40, now you need more bench play. And I think that's why I don't like this matchup, them having to play them this early. I think they earned the 7th seed. I think that it is unfair, but life's not fair. This is the hand they've been dealt. I think they hope they get the Grizzlies, but then if they do drop down to 8 and then they get the Suns, and they still have, when they drop down to 8, they still have to knock off the winner of the 9-10. So it's not a guarantee. They can go from 7 at home in Cancun, and that would be the biggest meltdown, I think, or one of the biggest meltdowns in Timberwolves history that people are never going to forget if that happens. If all of a sudden they go from 7 to 10 or 7 to 9, fans are going to be absolutely pissed off. I mean, that's not going to be a fun, weekend for the Timberwolves faithful, as people are just going to kill them. One, You look at Anthony Edwards. We could talk about that later. You brought it up, his demise down the stretch, trying to get 50 points, giving up unnecessary baskets just to shoot another 3-point. Reminds me of myself at Lifetime Fitness when we're up 14-3 playing a 17. I'm the same way. I'm jacking up threes from the logo because one, I want to win in grandiose fashion, but also I was just like, man, we're up 3-14. Everybody jack up a three. The team was giving him rebounds as well. So we'll get into that later in the show. But Sam, I mean, what are your thoughts? Do you like this plan? Do you think it's fair?
So I like entertainment, and single elimination formats are entertaining. Like in baseball, if two teams tie at the end, they get a one-game play-in, and those are some of the best baseball games. The Twins have been a part of some of those. In March Madness, single elimination throughout. The NFL, single elimination. People love tiebreaker games. They love one and dones. And in a series, if it gets to game 7, where winner advances, loser goes home, people love those situations. So I get the appeal of why they created the tournament. But this year, if we're talking about fairness, the Timberwolves are 5.5 games better than the Clippers. They're 9.5 games better than the Pelicans. And they're 11.5 games better than the Spurs. Here's how I would tweak it, Ron. The Wolves should not have to play the Clippers. The 7 should play the 10. And the 8 should play the 9. And the lower seed should have to win twice. That's, I think, the most fair way, because the Wolves have earned the right to have a Spurs team that's 34-46, because the Wolves were that good. They shouldn't have to play a legitimately good and strengthening Clippers team. And if Kawhi plays in that game, that's basically the 3 seed from last year. I mean, that's the full strength of a really good title contender last year that the Wolves are going to have to get stuck playing. So that's a really bad break for them. And I think they need to tweak the format to reward the better teams in that play-in so that a good team like the Wolves isn't left out in a random one-game situation.
Yeah, and Kawhi Leonard reportedly has been at practice dribbling, working out, around there. People are saying, do you bring him back and risk further injury? Do you wait and try to save him for next year? Because, at the 8th seed, do you really actually have a chance to win something now? So is it worth possibly re-injuring that? Kind of like Kevin Durant when he came back with the Warriors too soon, people felt like, and he tore his Achilles. The re-injury sometimes is worse than the original injury because you're ready to come back. Same with Adam Thielen. Coming back too soon for that game, he ends up having to have season-ending surgery as well. So, we can throw out a bunch of reasons why Kawhi Leonard shouldn't come back. One, because the Timberwolves shouldn't have to see him. But two, injury. What's the purpose? Is that really going to help you? Do you really think you can beat the Suns? And that's the thing. Like you said, at full strength, they are the 3 seed from last year. So in their mind, maybe they feel like they can knock the Suns off, because the Suns, people feel like they're a hit or miss team. When they're really hot, they're hot. But when they're not, hitting on all cylinders and Devin Booker is forcing it, they're not what they thought they were, in which that's what you saw what the Bucks took advantage of last year. When you can figure out ways to slow them down, they're a beatable team. And maybe that's what the Clippers are thinking. Maybe the Clippers are thinking, let's go get the Grizzlies, who, if we have 2 of our best defenders, we can neutralize Ja Morant, and also show that we're veterans and really just put our veteran presence in this game, and the Grizzlies being new to this. So I think that's why this whole thing is perplexing. I think I like to play in for the simple fact of, not in the NBA, but I think high school. You look at the Minnesota High School League issues with North Minneapolis having to play a team that barely played, 7-8 games, and they beat them like 120-4 or something like that, or 144-4. That's when you should have a play. You should have a plan with like the 4 lowest teams to have to then go up and then get into the playoffs. That lowest of the low should not play the best. The first 2 should get a bye. Let those lowest of the lows play each other to see who's better to come up. Because then maybe it's a better game if the lowest plays the second lowest and vice versa, and so on and so forth. You're not seeing these 144-4 blowouts, but that has nothing to do with the NBA. That's just me on my rant.